She won't let her cat sleep in her bedroom and her friends are furious. But wait until you hear why. Imagine loving something so much it physically hurts to say goodnight to it. Imagine standing in a doorway, looking back at this tiny creature staring up at you with those big eyes, and feeling like the worst person alive for closing that door. Now imagine that every single person you tell about this moment immediately turns on you and calls you a monster. That is where our storyteller is tonight, and honestly, the more I heard, the more I had to stop and ask, are we sure we are mad at the right person here? Because here is the thing. This person did not come to the internet looking for a fight. They came looking for someone, anyone, to just say, hey, I get it, that sounds hard. And instead they got an avalanche of judgment from people who apparently have never once considered that there might be a reason someone makes the choices they do. They were not being defensive or looking for validation on something they already knew was wrong. They were genuinely confused and genuinely hurting. And the response they got was not compassion. It was a pile-on. So let us back up and actually look at what is going on here, because this story has a lot of moving parts and every single one of them matters. And if you rush through any one of them, you end up with exactly the kind of shallow take that made this person feel so alone in the first place. Our narrator is 20 years old and has a 10-month-old cat that they describe, with a kind of warmth that honestly just radiates off the page, as their soul cat. Not just a pet. Their soul cat. This is a person who is deeply, genuinely in love with this animal. You can feel it in the way they write about her, in the specific details they reach for, in the way they talk about her eyes and her personality and the specific sound of her settling in for the night. They spend most of their days with her because they only work 2 days a week and they have ongoing health issues that keep them home a lot. So this cat is getting a significant amount of love, attention, playtime, and cuddles every single day. We are not talking about a neglected animal sitting alone in an apartment. We are talking about a cat who is probably more spoiled and more seen than most pets in the country. She has a person who is home, present, and fully focused on her the majority of every single day. The issue is the bedroom. Specifically, the fact that when bedtime comes around, the cat stays in the living room and our narrator closes their bedroom door. And the people in this person's life have apparently decided that this single nighttime boundary makes them a bad pet owner, a cruel person, and quote, an insane thing of you to do. Those are real words real people said to a real human being who, again, just wanted to understand if they were doing something wrong. Not someone who wanted to be told they were perfect. Someone who was genuinely open to being wrong and was asking in good faith. And that is exactly the kind of person who deserved a thoughtful answer. Now here is where I need you to actually pay attention, because the reasons this person gives for keeping the cat out of the bedroom are not excuses. They are not made up. They are not dramatic. They are 3 completely real and completely understandable situations that anyone with half a brain could look at and go, oh yeah, okay, that tracks. Reason number 1. The bedroom is genuinely dangerous for this cat. Not metaphorically dangerous, not slightly inconvenient, actually dangerous. This is a cat that, during her spay recovery alone, nearly ate a wall tack that fell on the floor. Think about that for a second. Not during some chaotic moment, not because anyone was being careless. A single small object hit the floor at the wrong second and this cat was already on her way to putting it in her mouth. That is the kind of cat we are dealing with. The kind that requires active supervision not because she is bad but because she is young and curious and has the self-preservation instincts of a golden retriever puppy. One moment of inattention and that cat was heading straight for something that could have killed her. And the bedroom? The bedroom has pony beads, elastic string, plastic packaging scraps, and possibly more tacks scattered across the floor. The narrator knows this. They are not unaware. They are dealing with health issues that have made cleaning difficult, and they are being honest about the state of the room rather than pretending everything is fine. That is actually a responsible thing to do. They looked at their situation clearly, without flinching, and said, my cat will eat something dangerous in there, so she cannot go in there until I can make it safe. That is not cruelty. That is literally the definition of keeping your pet safe. Reason number 2 is where things get a little more personal, and I want to be careful here because this person deserves real compassion for what they shared. They struggle with contamination anxiety. They have made enormous progress, by their own account. They can pet their cat, they can let the cat touch them, they can handle the natural messiness of loving an animal without shutting down. And I want to pause on that for a moment because that is not a small thing. Contamination anxiety is the kind of thing that can make ordinary daily life feel like an obstacle course. The fact that this person pushed through enough of it to bring a pet into their home, to let that pet crawl on them and lick them and do all the chaotic physical things cats do, that took real work. Real deliberate effort over probably a long period of time. That is genuinely hard work for someone dealing with this kind of anxiety, and it deserves to be acknowledged. But there is one boundary they have not been able to cross yet, and that is having the cat sit on their bedding and pillows, specifically the pillows where their face and mouth rest while they sleep. And before anyone rolls their eyes, they made a point that I think is absolutely fair. Nobody bats an eye when someone says they do not want a cat on the kitchen counter. Suddenly everyone understands hygiene concerns then. But the moment it is about the bed, about the face, about where someone sleeps, it becomes a personal failing. That inconsistency is wild to me, and they were completely right to call it out. Oh, and did I mention that this person woke up to their childhood cat urinating directly on their face when they were in elementary school? Yeah. We are going to come back to how that might have shaped some feelings about contamination and sleep in cats near faces. Because when you are a small child and you wake up to that, it does not just register as a gross inconvenience. It registers in the body. It becomes one of those memories that your nervous system files under things we do not do again. The fact that this person still went out and got a cat as an adult, still built a whole loving relationship with one, is honestly remarkable when you hold that detail in mind. Reason number 3 is perhaps the most relatable one for anyone who has ever tried to share a bed with a cat. This cat is a menace at night. And I say that with love because all cats are menaces at night, that is just cats. It is like they have a switch that flips the moment the lights go off and suddenly they are a completely different creature operating on a completely different schedule with completely different priorities. But this particular cat has a signature move where she will climb onto your face and make biscuits. With her claws. At 3 in the morning. Picture that. You are in the deepest part of your sleep, you are warm and under your blankets, and suddenly there is a small set of needle feet pressing directly into your cheekbone with all the focused determination of a bread baker who has never heard of the concept of restraint. And if you try to move her, she bites. She bites your face specifically. Not your hand. Not your shoulder. Your face. The narrator is very clear that she is not an aggressive cat in a scary way, she is just deeply committed to doing exactly what she wants to do at all times, which is the most cat sentence ever written. But the result is that sleeping with her means 45 minutes of half-awake wrestling at 3 in the morning and a very real possibility of waking up with claw marks on your cheek. That is not a sleep environment. That is a hostage situation with a creature that weighs 8 pounds and has absolutely no remorse. And yet people are still mad. People are still out here calling this person awful and a jerk and acting like keeping a bead-eating, face-kneading cat out of an objectively dangerous bedroom is some kind of moral failure. Like the 3 very detailed, very specific, very logical reasons this person provided somehow do not count. Like love is only real if it comes with 0 limits. Like the correct response to a genuine question asked in good faith is to skip the thinking part entirely and just start swinging. Here is what actually gets me though. This person is not even comfortable with their decision. They second-guess themselves constantly. They heard a fact somewhere about cats having the emotional mentality of a 2-year-old and now they lie awake worrying that they have traumatized their pet. You can feel the weight of that guilt in the way they wrote about it. This was not someone breezing past a difficult choice. This was someone sitting with it, turning it over, holding it up to the light and checking it from every angle and still not feeling at peace. And what do they do when that guilt gets too heavy? They get up in the middle of the night, go to the couch, and cuddle the cat for an hour before going back to bed. They drag themselves off a mattress in the dark because they cannot stand the thought of that animal feeling alone. This is not the behavior of someone who does not care. This is the behavior of someone who cares so much it is actually keeping them up at night, which is a sentence I find both sweet and a little heartbreaking. The real question this person came to the internet with was not whether their reasons were valid. Deep down they knew they had good reasons. What they were really asking was whether it was possible to love someone, human or animal, and still have boundaries around them. Whether saying no to one specific thing means saying no to the relationship. Whether a limit, drawn carefully and with real thought and real pain, can coexist with genuine love. Whether you can close a door at night and still be the person who loves what is on the other side of it more than almost anything. And I think that question deserves a real answer. Because the friends in this person's life failed them completely. Not just by disagreeing, but by refusing to even consider the context. Nobody stopped to ask why. Nobody said, "Oh, you have health issues and a messy room and some anxiety, tell me more about that." Nobody took a breath and thought, maybe there is something going on here that I do not fully understand yet. They just went straight to the judgment. They called this person a jerk and awful and insane without a single follow-up question. And that says a lot more about them than it does about the person asking. It is easy to judge from the outside when you have decided you already understand the whole picture. It takes something more to sit with someone and say, "Help me understand." This narrator also casually dropped something that I think a lot of people skipped right past. They mentioned being scared to pet animals in the past. That is a whole thing, sitting right there in the middle of the post, and most of the commenters just blew past it entirely because they were too busy performing outrage to actually read what was written. Being scared to touch animals, then building a life that includes one, then showing up for that animal with daily play and cuddles and midnight couch visits because the guilt of the closed door is too much to sleep through. And now they have a cat they love and cuddle and play with daily. That is not the story of someone who is cruel to animals. That is the story of someone who worked through something really hard because they wanted to share their life with a pet, and now they are doing exactly that, on terms that are safe for both of them. That deserves recognition. Not judgment. So here is where I land on this. Not only is this person not the jerk, they are actually doing everything right. They are keeping their cat safe from genuine physical hazards. They are managing their own anxiety in a way that is honest and progressive. They are setting a sleep boundary that is completely reasonable given a cat that has demonstrated a clear commitment to face violence at 3 in the morning. And they are spending the majority of their waking hours giving that cat love and attention and presence. The people calling them awful are not coming from a place of concern for the cat. If they were, they would have asked about the cat's actual daily life, which is clearly full of love. They are coming from a place of emotional reaction, the same kind that makes people post angry comments without reading past the first sentence. And that kind of judgment, the kind that refuses to make room for context or nuance or personal history, is not something this person needs to take seriously. The verdict here is clear. Keep the door closed. Clean when you can, make the room safe when you are ready, and maybe eventually the cat gets bedroom privileges. But until then, you are not cruel, you are not awful, you are not a jerk. You are a person who loves their cat enough to keep her safe even when it breaks your heart a little. That is what good pet ownership actually looks like. She stopped texting her friends first and weeks went by without a single message from either of them. She stopped sending the first text. That is all she did. She did not block anyone, did not say anything harsh, did not start drama. She just stopped being the one to reach out first, and in doing so she discovered something that a lot of people spend years trying to avoid knowing about their friendships. Neither of her two closest friends noticed. Or if they did not care enough to do anything about it. Weeks passed. Total silence. Let me set the scene here, because I think the full picture of what led to this moment matters a lot. Our narrator is 20 years old and has been part of a 3-person friend group for about 3 years. One of these friends she has known since childhood. They were best friends as kids, the kind of closeness that feels permanent when you're young, the kind where you finish each other's sentences and assume without question that this person will simply always be there. And then in middle school this friend just stopped talking to her completely. No explanation, no fight, just gone. And our narrator describes that as one of the most painful things she had ever gone through at that age, which honestly makes a lot of sense, because that kind of silent disappearing act from a best friend when you are 12 or 13 hits differently than adult drama does. It does not just hurt. It settles into you. It rewires something. It teaches you that people you love can just decide to leave without warning, and that staying close to someone does not protect you from that. That lesson does not leave quietly. It installs itself somewhere in the back of your chest and it stays there, waiting. They reconnected in high school and stayed close through college, talking online almost every day. And for a while that felt like proof that the fear was wrong, that this person was real and permanent after all. But that old fear never fully went away. Our narrator was always a little bit waiting for the other shoe to drop. And then, as if written by someone who enjoys dramatic irony a little too much, it dropped. In the months before this friend moved to the United States for a work opportunity, their conversations were almost entirely about the move. The logistics, the excitement, the anxiety, the plans. And that is fine, that is a big deal. Our narrator was genuinely excited for her and asked about it often. She showed up for those conversations. She asked good questions. She celebrated her friend's next chapter the way a real friend does. But the friend never once turned the conversation around. Never asked about school, never asked about work, never said, "Hey, how are things going with you?" It was a completely one-directional flow of attention for months, with our narrator holding the flashlight and illuminating someone else while standing in the dark herself. Then they had a farewell dinner, said their goodbyes warmly, hugged at the door like it meant something, and that was apparently that. Because since the friend arrived in the United States, she has essentially disappeared. She leaves messages delivered without responding. She ghosts the conversations entirely, sometimes for days, sometimes longer. Meanwhile she is posting daily online, writing at length about all the incredible new people she has met and how close she has gotten to them, how this city feels like home already, how she cannot believe how lucky she is. And I want to be clear about what that means. It means she has the time. She has the phone in her hand. She is crafting paragraphs about her new life and sharing them with the world. She is just choosing, actively and deliberately, not to respond to our narrator. The person who showed up for her. The person who asked all the questions. That person gets the delivered receipt and nothing else. I am sorry, but that is cold. That is not being busy with a new life. That is being replaced without the dignity of an explanation. Now the second friend adds a whole other layer to this. They have been close since high school, have similar interests, and see each other a few times a year. In April they finally exchanged the Christmas gifts they had never gotten around to giving each other. Which is actually kind of sweet, that low-pressure way some friendships work where the calendar date matters less than the gesture. Sweet, right? Until less than a week later, while our narrator is literally driving this friend home from dinner, with the heat on and the radio low and the easy comfort of someone you have known for years in the passenger seat, the friend says out loud, without irony, without humor, and apparently without any awareness of how that sounds, that she cannot wait to see what she gets for her birthday. She was not joking. Our narrator is very specific about that. 100% serious. Okay. Just need a moment here. That is one of the most audacious things I have heard in a friendship story in a long time. You are in someone's car. They are giving you a free ride home after dinner. The Christmas gift was barely a week ago, the wrapping paper is probably still in the recycling bin. And your contribution to the conversation, the thing you decide to say into the warm quiet of that drive, is to open a tab on the next gift you expect to receive. I genuinely cannot. But it goes further than that one moment. This friend has not acknowledged our narrator's new job at all. No questions, no congratulations, nothing. Not a single text that says, "Hey, I heard about the new role, how is it going?" Meanwhile, when the friend got a new job herself, she expected to be celebrated, and she was, because our narrator is the kind of person who shows up for those moments. She talks constantly about all the exciting things everyone else is doing, lists them out enthusiastically, and then goes quiet when it gets to our narrator, as if she does not quite register as someone whose life has things worth mentioning. Like our narrator exists in the story only as a supporting character, present to applaud but not to be applauded. And when our narrator suggests getting lunch, there is no follow-up. The idea just dissolves. But when a comedian they both like announces a tour on the other side of the country, suddenly this friend is all energy and enthusiasm and we should absolutely go. Never mind that she knows our narrator is actively saving money and a cross-country trip is not in the picture. The selective enthusiasm is its own kind of message. The pattern here is not subtle. It is not ambiguous. It is not something our narrator needs to second-guess. Both of these friendships have settled into the same shape, one where our narrator is expected to show up, ask questions, celebrate milestones, offer support, be present and engaged, and receive very little of that in return. And when her mom says cut them off and her cousin says keep reaching out so they do not think you do not care, our narrator finds a middle path. She just stops initiating. She does not send the angry message. She does not have the confrontation. She simply waits to see what happens when she stops being the engine that keeps these friendships moving. And the answer is, nothing happens. Now I want to sit with that for a second because I think it deserves more than a passing observation. When someone stops reaching out to you, there is a moment where you notice. Even if you are busy, even if you are caught up in a new life or a new job or new friends, there is a moment where you go, I have not heard from her in a while. And at that moment you have a choice. You can pick up the phone, or you can keep scrolling. Both of these friends chose to keep scrolling. 4 weeks. That is not being distracted. That is a decision. The thing that gets me most about this whole situation is the fear underneath it. Our narrator did not come here angry. She came here uncertain. She genuinely could not tell if what she was experiencing was real or if she was imagining it. She questioned herself, she wondered if maybe she was being unfair, she laid out both sides with care and honesty. And that kind of self-questioning, that willingness to wonder if you are wrong, is actually a sign of someone who takes their relationships seriously. People who do not care do not spend time asking themselves if they are the problem. She is not the problem. The verdict here is simple even if it does not feel simple yet. What she did, stopping the one-sided outreach, was not ghosting in any meaningful sense of the word. Ghosting is when you disappear on someone who is trying to reach you. These two friends were not trying to reach her. The silence on both ends is not equivalent. Her silence is a response to their silence, not the cause of it. She just made it visible. She just stopped disguising the fact that these friendships only moved when she pushed them. And here is the hard truth that I think she already knows but maybe needs someone to say clearly. A friendship where one person does all the initiating is not a friendship. It is a performance. It is one person playing the role of friend while the other person enjoys having an audience. That is not a relationship worth pouring yourself into, especially when you are 20 years old and you have your whole life ahead of you to build connections with people who will actually show up for you. The first friend reenacted the exact same pattern that devastated her as a child, only this time with no excuse of being 12 and not knowing better. The second friend expected gifts, celebration, and cross-country trips while she offered nothing but a pointed silence when it was time to talk about what was going on in our narrator's life. These are not people having a bad few weeks. This is who they are in this season, and maybe permanently. And staying in place waiting for them to change is not loyalty. It is just delayed disappointment. Let her be done. Let the silence be the answer. And let her use the energy she was pouring into those one-sided conversations to find people who ask her questions back. Drop a comment below and tell me which story hit harder for you, and if you related to either of these, you already know what to do, like and subscribe so you never miss one.